Should I try to survive an affair? It's probably a question you've asked yourself many times since you found out that you're being cheated on. In this video, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why you shouldn't give up on your marriage. We have worked with thousands of people over the last nearly 30 years who have come to us with this exact same question. Each situation is different, but the answers remain the same. You should try to survive an affair. The first reason that you should try to survive an affair is because you likely married a good person who right now is doing some pretty crappy things. And I completely understand that. I'm not justifying the fact that your spouse is having an affair, but I hope that you can take a step back and really get a bigger picture on the totality of the circumstances first. There are a ton of people who, once they find out about their spouse's affair, they reasonably, and for every justifiable reason, lose trust. But bigger than that, they begin to ask themselves, can I ever trust them again? And they answer for themselves by saying, no, I can't. If they've had an affair, I should just move on. I should divorce them and find someone new. And while you have every justifiable reason in the world to absolutely feel that way, and even to make that decision if you want, some things that I want to bring to light for you are as follows. It is best estimated when we look at the research and the literature that about 30 to 50% of marriages are affected by an affair at some point in their time. Now, you might be thinking, how is this supposed to help me think differently in a positive way about my situation? What I'm trying to help you see is you're not alone when you're going through this. And just because you end this marriage to have another one doesn't mean that you lessen the effect or the chance that it could even happen again. While affairs are terrible, heartbreaking, and absolutely cause havoc in the marriage, it doesn't necessarily mean that the marriage has to end. In fact, many of the circumstances, about 60 to 70% of the people that come to the workshops that we do at Marriage Helper, they come to us with an active affair happening. Either the husband had one, the wife had one, or both. These are instances that happen throughout marriage, even though they shouldn't. But at the end of the day, asking yourself the question, is my spouse really a bad person who's going to continue on this behavior no matter what for the rest of our lives? And if the answer to that is yes, which it rarely is, then you do need to make a decision about what you're willing to put up with and what the future should look like. But with the thousands of people we've worked with at Marriage Helper, what I can tell you is the majority of those people, good people, have ended up doing things that they knew they shouldn't have done, but they did. But they had a spouse who believed that they deserved to be rescued. And sometimes it was them. Sometimes it was the person who had the affair, who came to their senses and realized, what have I done? I'm ruining my family. I'm ruining our future. I want to make this right. And they come to us in order to save their marriage. So think about your spouse. Think about the time that you've been married together, the kids that you have, the future that you could have. Think about, is your spouse really at their core a good person? The person that you've known them to be for however long you've been together? And the answer to that is likely yes. Another reason that you should try to survive an affair is thinking about your family. Thinking about your kids. I want to make it clear here that I'm not saying that you should accept the fact that an affair is happening and continue on your merry way. I'm not saying that you should be calling the other woman and giving her tips on how to better help your husband when he's in a tight spot or when he's over at her house and gets a headache. I'm not saying you should do anything like that. Or if it's your wife having an affair, I'm not saying that you should be best friends with the other man and just turn your cheek and hope for the affair to end. That's not it at all. Instead, it's looking at the situation and saying, how can I look at the affair separately from what I want to do to save my marriage? It's something that has to be rectified. It's something that has to end, absolutely. But look at your family and your marriage separately from the affair. Think about your kids. Think about your future. Think about all of the reasons that you actually have to try and make this marriage work. We know from the research the negative impact and effects that divorce has on children. In my master's thesis, this was the topic that I focused on. And pages upon pages, hundreds of journal articles that I read, there's thousands upon thousands out there, that unveil longitudinal studies talking about how heartbreaking it is for children to have to experience the divorce of their parents. And the worst thing that can happen for a child is that their parents divorce and continue to be mad at each other, to continue to have a terrible relationship. And that's the majority of the situations that happen, because the relationship didn't work and they just continue to live in unforgiveness and resentment. The kids will be affected by that. Can they be resilient? Yes, absolutely. But they shouldn't have to be. I really encourage you to think about all of the things that could be affected by getting a divorce before you move forward in doing that, and really encourage you to think of all of the reasons why you should try and save your marriage, because you might realize that you have way more reasons to save it than not. I also hope that you realize that you are not alone. We have worked with thousands of people at Marriage Helper whose marriages have been impacted by an affair. And while many people might look at that and say, well, then there's no hope for those people, what I hope that you hear is absolutely there is. One of my favorite stories is a couple, Jordan and Priscilla. They actually came to us several years ago with the wife being the one who was involved in the affair, and 5 children who were experiencing the heartbreak and the devastation of this. And so when Priscilla divorced her husband, Jordan, to go and be with this other man, it wreaked havoc in the household. One of their sons would pray every night, God, if you would just bring my mom back and help my parents to love each other again. He would pray that every night that they were divorced. And during the 6 months that they were divorced, Priscilla came to realize this isn't the life I thought it was going to be. This isn't the happiness or the following my heart and all of those things that I thought I was going to come to. I actually realized that I'm not happy and I want to go back and try and save my family. And that's exactly what she did. Even after an affair and 6 months of divorce, and with her being pregnant with the other man's child. You might look at that and say, there's no hope. But there was, because she called her husband Jordan and she opened up to him and she said, can I tell you my heart? They talked for 3 hours that night. She asked for forgiveness. He forgave her for everything. They worked towards reconciliation. They got remarried. And when that baby was born, it was Jordan's name that went on that birth certificate. And to this day, that family is together. Not only that, but they're part of our team here at Marriage Helper. There's very little that you could tell me or anyone on our team where we would say there is no hope, because we believe there's always hope. I actually just came from a lunch today where many people, as I was introducing myself and telling them what I did, they said, wow, what you do is so great and so needed, but I'm divorced and it couldn't have been saved because my spouse had an affair. And what I wanted to say to every single one of them was, what you don't understand is there's always hope. And we have seen thousands of those situations saved and the marriage made better than ever before. The kids being able to grow up and thrive with 2 parents in their house. Girls, daughters who were born don't have to choose who's going to walk them down the aisle. They don't have to worry about their wedding day and who's going to be fighting because their divorced parents are there. There's ramifications of divorce. And I am not saying you should live in a terrible situation by any stretch of the imagination. But what I am saying is that you are not alone. There are people who have walked down this road of how to survive an affair that can help you too. I hope by now you've chosen to survive the affair. And I hope that you've chosen to stand for your marriage. If you want to learn more about how to get your spouse back, click the link on the screen, and we'll see you in the next video.